Now, your personal information can be used by criminals to assume your identity and acquire retail or bank accounts, or even to defraud your insurance. The question is, what do you do when you think your ID has been compromised? Well, our personal finance guru, that's Maya Fisher-French, joining us via Skype, as she usually does on a Tuesday this time, to discuss ID fraud and how it can actually mess up your finances and your life, I suppose. Maya, good morning. And very, very interesting, and I think about time that we spoke about this. Let's talk firstly about what is happening out there. What are these criminals or criminal syndicates actually up to?
So they've actually in court at the moment. There's a syndicate, I think it's about 9 men who've been arrested for ID fraud. And this was a really massive syndicate that was found to have in possession over 84,000 consumer profiles. And what they were doing is they kind of had a printing shop where they were creating fake IDs. And then there'd be real people with real credit records. And then they would find a runner that matched that ID. So they'd make sure it was the same gender, racial demographics, age, and that person would then go and take on credit. It could be a loan. We came across cell phone people, having cell phone contracts that they didn't know they had, and in some cases even money withdrawn from bank accounts. So this is obviously a massive industry for syndicates, and I think that's exactly the problem. Is what do you do when you find yourself in the situation, or how do you prevent yourself from it?
How are people finding out that they've been victims of ID theft, first of all? I mean, how do you know? Where do we need to check? And I know you're always telling us, check your statements, do your thing, see when money is going off. So how would you know if this is running in a parallel process?
So first of all, in fact, one of the victims admitted to me that he hadn't been checking his bank statements. It took him about 6 months to realize that these debit orders were going off his bank account for a cell phone contract. So it's very important, check your bank statements. Also make sure that most banks now have notification SMSs about any money that leaves your bank account. Make sure you've signed up for that. And the other one, and I go on and on about it, but it is check your credit record. Sadly, only about 3% of credit active people actually check their credit record. But your credit record will tell you if anyone's opened an account in your name. And currently, I think there's 6 credit bureaus, 2 are amalgamating, so there'll be 5 soon, but there's 6 of them, which means you get 1 free a year from each of them. So, you get 6 checks a year, every second month. You can kind of keep on top of it. And the other thing is that if you do believe your information's been compromised, say account has been opened in your name or something, you feel that you perhaps have fallen for a phishing link, then a really good idea is to sign up with the South African Fraud Prevention Services alert system. So this, you put your ID number, you give them your ID number, and they make sure that any time a credit provider or anyone tries to open an account or take out credit in your name, it sends an alert, basically informing the credit provider or service provider to do further checks. So this can be a bit of a hassle if it's you who's opening the account, but obviously if you're worried that your information has been compromised, and that's a really important step to take.
So I suppose the other question would be for consumers out there, Maya, is what are banks or cell phone providers, what are they doing to tighten things up on their side? Because there's as much as you can do to protect yourself when you are aware, and those of us who are vigilant, not everybody is. How much of this falls on their side? How much of the onus falls on them in protecting the consumer as well?
Look, I'm writing an article about this week, and one of my questions I'm raising is, where did they get 84,000 profiles from? That's the one question is, what are there breaches in the system? Is our information being kept securely? So I think that's one of the key questions that's going to be investigated. I have spoken to the National Credit Regulator. They are investigating this, and I think that's an important question. These are the institutions that have all our information, and are they protecting our information? And obviously also from their perspective is making sure that the information is accurate, double checking the documents that are handed to them. But then on the other side, we get frustrated with things like FICA and proof of residence and all of that. So there is this tension between trying to make it easier but then also protecting the consumer. But I think another really interesting one is we're seeing in the banks, if I think of something like Time Bank, Capitec, using biometrics to open accounts. And I think that's perhaps something we should really start looking for, because your fingerprint is your fingerprint. It's fairly challenging to to pretend to be somebody else unless you have their thumb.
Or their retina as well, I suppose. And very quickly, I suppose the bigger question for consumers there will be, if I'm a victim, will I get my money back? How do I get my money back?
So, unless you catch somebody quite early in the stages of the fraud, it is challenging to get to always get all the funds back. And especially in a case like this where it was a cell phone contract, for example, where you were paying for it, but then you've got to get the money back from the scammers or the syndicate. And that is, that could take years and years, if ever. So I don't think necessarily it's going to be that easy to actually get your money back, unfortunately.
All right, thanks very much. That's our personal finance guru, Maya Fisher-French. She'll keep us updated on the cases of ID theft out there. Just do what you can to protect yourself, I suppose.